Alright, good morning everyone. I'm Lieutenant Gonzalez. I'll be giving you your last mission command brief of the day. I'll be covering over Operation Apache Snow. As you can see here, on Don Akai, which is in Vietnam. Some other words you could use is Hamburger Hill, probably more normal, or Hill 937. And this brief is unclassified. Alright, so agenda, give you an introduction about the area itself, the timeline of events leading up to the operation and the operation itself, mission command principles for my commander, the outcome of the battle itself, and then the conclusion. Alright, so introduction, so just to orient you, this occurred during the Vietnam War. The valley here, Al Su Valley, is the OE during the operation. As you can see here, Hamburger Hill is going to be directly southeast of the valley itself. So, beginning with Lieutenant Colonel Honeycutt. So, he was a very outspoken and fiercely competitive individual, but he was short in stature, so his peers, fellow officers, didn't think very highly of him at first and thought he lacked command presence. But because of that, he decided to apply himself to the Army doctrine and disciplines, which helped him out greatly because in just 5 years he started out as a private and made it up to captain in that short time frame. During that time as a captain, he went to 3rd 187 and actually was a company commander. And what really impressed generals above him, which helped him out greatly later on, was that he was able to seize and capture and destroy a hill that 2 of his other peers, company commanders, were not able to take over the Chinese forces during the Korean War. Later on throughout his career, he came back as lieutenant colonel and took command of 3rd 187th, also known as the Rocketsons. And at first, he had a difficult time. What he discovered was upon taking command, his officers weren't there with his soldiers. So he gathered all his officers and he told them quite bluntly, from now on this battalion is going to fight. This battalion is going to go out and find the enemy and kill him. This BS of running around and hiding is over. So he had a lot of officers not in the formation going off to Camp Evans and hanging out, trying to avoid that field time with their soldiers. And he had a couple of incidences. So he had one officer, lieutenant, that decided that he was scared trying to lead a patrol against some enemies, and he told him straightforward, "You're a coward, I don't want you in this formation." He also had another officer, another lieutenant, that wasn't against the Vietnam, or who was against the Vietnam War. And he told him, "I want you out of this battalion right now." And he told one of his company commanders, "Get this effing traitor out of my sight." So a very straightforward commander. However, even though he was very blunt, he told his officers what he wanted, he was able to change that culture within his battalion. And within just a month, he believed that in his eyes, he was able to hone his unit down to a trim and hard Spartan battalion. So looking here, this is Operation Apache Snow. So we had 5 different battalions, 2 including the Southern Vietnamese Army, and their goal was to start the base here in different areas, go up the hill to Hill 379. The goal was to destroy and take over enemy bunker base and also keep pressure on the enemy forces. Just prior to the operation starting, Lieutenant Colonel Honeycutt brought over one of his company commanders, Captain Littenden. He told him, "I doubt that you'll make it tonight, but sometime late tomorrow morning, I want to be up in there, or up on the top with my CP." And the company commander told him it shouldn't be any problem. So he built that trust and confidence within his subordinate leaders. However, as they would soon come to find out, that wouldn't be as easy as they first thought. So the Rocketsons were actually up against the 29th North Vietnamese Army regiment, which was codenamed American Killers. So their big thing was ambushing Americans up this hill. So the big problem was the terrain itself. The enemy forces knew exactly where to put ambushes, as well as the weather, which would play a key factor later on. And the issue was, as soon as any platoon or company would start making movement up the hill, they would hit ambushes, stay in place, and just make a defensive perimeter until the next morning. And this happened from the 11th of May all the way until the 19th of May. So, building the cohesive team through mutual trust. So it goes back to how Lieutenant Colonel Honeycutt came together with his officers and told them directly what he wanted. He didn't think the culture was ready for this fight, and he built them up by making his officers build that trust within his soldiers, being out in the field and training. He brought clear commander's intent. He told that captain prior to Operation Apache Snow what he wanted. He already knew how he wanted it done according to the op order, which was going from the southeast portion of the mountain all the way to the top. Exercise command discipline, or discipline initiative. So there are a couple of examples given. So one, he took it upon himself. Every time that operation started each day, he would go out to a C-2 bird and try to coordinate with those companies on the ground to give them a better vantage point to keep going up the hill. And another instance was, near the end of this battle, he was told by his brigade commander that his unit was going to be replaced by 3 other battalions. And he kept insisting that, no, we want to finish this fight and want to push forward since we made so many sacrifices. And he wasn't going to take waiting for reinforcements from other units, as he was worried that, and I quote, get their asses shot off. He wanted to take the initiative and keep attacking throughout the mission. And the last one I want to hit is accept current risk. So throughout the whole operation, the platoon leaders, company commanders are calling in airstrikes on different locations. And Lieutenant Colonel Honeycutt accepted those risks. What happened was, throughout the whole operation, they had 3 different times where friendly forces fired upon the companies by accident due to the thick vegetation of the area. But he accepted that risk to try and help the companies out. So the outcome. So after the 10th day, the Roxxons were able to get to the top, but it goes back to them needing to get replenished throughout every day rotation that they tried going up the hill. And they had to get an additional company outside of their organic unit to go up the hill, and they finally got it. They were able to get the hill. However, it was mostly abandoned by the 20th of November, except for a platoon of North Vietnamese army, and they were set there to fight in place until death. Casualties. So Alpha and Bravo Company, respectively, both had about 50% loss of their original strength, and Charlie and Delta Company had about 80% losses to their original strength as well. So that was about 4 company commanders, 1 of which was killed, another 1 was injured, and about 8 out of the 12 platoon leaders were considered casualties throughout this operation as well. So the reason most of us probably know this Hill 937 was due to a soldier posting up a sign that said Hamburger Hill. The reason was soldiers kept coming down and they consider it nothing but a human meat grinder because of all the casualties that were produced on both sides of the forces. And the fallout of this, so about 2 weeks later after the U.S. left, or after 2 weeks of occupying that hill, the U.S. decided to leave that area, and in doing so allowed the North Vietnamese army to push 1,000 troops to that position and take back. In conclusion, so I felt that Lieutenant Colonel Honeycutt's influence changed that culture of the Roxxons from officers not leading from the front and not leading in general to having that command presence of those officers being there with their soldiers and pushing through this operation throughout the whole entirety of the battle, applying the lessons. So one of the big things I admired was his passion for his unit to keep fighting, but it was also kind of a downfall because he had so many casualties throughout it. So you gotta do that checks and balances of, is that pertinent risk to take that one potentially insignificant hill? Does it go with the grander scheme of things? At this time, it concludes our brief. Any questions from anyone?